Hey everyone, welcome to another inspiring episode of Healthy Mind, Healthy Life, the podcast where we dive into the essential habits, tools, and the insights that help you achieve both inner peace and outward success. I'm your host Avik, and if you are someone who's juggling personal ambitions with the professional responsibilities, constantly balancing success and the sanity, then you are in for a treat today. Stress. Just hearing the word can make our hearts race, right? But what if I told you that stress doesn't have to be your enemy? What if instead it could be the secret ingredient to your growth and the success? That's exactly what today's episode is about. Learning how to master your mindset, build the resilience, and transform stress into fuel for productivity and the personal growth. So joining me is today Dr. Josh Macwealth. So welcome to the show, Dr. Josh.
Thank you, Avik.
Lovely, lovely. So, Dr. Josh, before we start, I'll quickly love to introduce you to all of our listeners. Dear listeners, Dr. Josh is an organizational psychologist, entrepreneur, and the success coach who knows firsthand how to navigate the chaos of life. So, Dr. Joss has helped countless people turn burnout, self doubt, and overwhelm into clarity, resilience, and the purpose. So, his science backed approach is practical, empowering, and exactly what we need right now. That's really awesome, right? So, Dr. Joss, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Lovely, lovely. So, Dr. Josh, you have built a career around transforming the stress into a tool for success. So, if you can share a bit of your personal journey and how you turned your own experiences with burnout into this powerful message of resilience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm glad to do so. So,
Yeah.
I get so passionate about this subject, Avik, because
Uh-huh.
of the path that I have walked. I
Mm,
have walked from burning out and feeling overwhelmed by stress,
mm,
from feeling like I'm carrying a load that is just too much to bear, from
mhm,
feeling like I am unsure about the path that I'm on. I started a business, and at the same time juggling family life. At the same time, trying to while being a leader and being a good partner and a good father. Um, just life in
mm,
general, juggling all these facets of life, and just trying to make it work.
true.
Spending all the money I had from the business from my 9 to 5 job on
Mhm,
trying to grow my business, just hitting dead end after dead
mm,
end after dead end. And I'll tell you from personal experience that I know how it feels. I know the exact feeling of that chaotic hamster wheel of the life that we call stress. But I know that stress doesn't have to be our enemy. In fact, all of my most stressful stories have also become my most successful stories, looking back. And so I sit back and I'm thinking about this in hindsight, and I think, well, stress really is our best teacher. There is
mm,
no institution in the world that can teach you the things that an experience can teach you. But
correct.
however, if we do not
Mm,
understand how to manage stress and
mm,
harness it to where we can use it to be a tool for growth and development and resilience, then
mm,
it can go from stress to overwhelm to chronic
yeah.
stress to chronic health issues and to burnout.
Mm,
So it's a critical matter that I think every person, whether you're a business owner or just trying to juggle life as a father, as a partner, whatever your aspect of life is that you are dealing with, I think it's so critical that we can take stress and use it for what it's meant for to help us grow.
mm, understood. Yeah. So, like on the core ideas that you discuss in mindset mastery for someone who feels like they are constantly under pressure. So what's the first step they can take to start mastering their mindset and gaining control over their stress?
Yeah, well, great question. So
Mhm.
I want to start by from the beginning of mindset mastery, right?
Mm,
What determines the quality of life that we live? What determines how happy we end up being in life? There was a study done by the Harvard study of adult development, and another one done by the uh, um, research done by the research of consumer affairs,
mm,
consumer research, and these two organizations found that our
mm.
happiness is not based
Yeah,
on money or anything material, really. While those things are great, our
great.
happiness is based on the richness of experiences that we have. And so if you
Mm,
ask, well, what is an experience? And Avik,
yeah.
an experience by Oxford's definition is a
Mm,
practical contact with and observation of a fact or an event. So
mm,
you step outside of your house today, right? And you're faced with the world. Those are either facts or events. As you're practically interacting with your world around you, as you're observing the world around
mm,
you, you're in an experience. But what happens though is
mm,
that our as we receive these things from with our five senses, you can hear it, you can smell it, you can taste it, you can touch it. All these
mm,
things, all of this data that's coming in is landing on
mm,
the database of our mind. This is why I love the name of your podcast, Healthy
mm,
Mind, right? So we receive all of this information into our mind.
mm,
Now we have to process. Our mind is processing all of this stuff. And how do we
mm,
process it? By thinking. Our thought is the engine to process data. And so I call the mind the database of the body. I call the
mm,
body this ecosystem that has about 50 trillion living cells. And each cell is just doing its thing, right? But the our brain is the king of this ecosystem. And
mm,
our brain gets information from this database of our mind and uses that information to push down hormones
mm.
when you get stressed. Your brain
Yeah.
gets a signal that you are under threat. Your brain
Mm,
tries to keep you health, tries to keep you safe. It wants you to be able to run. It wants you to be able to fight, whichever applies. And
mm,
so your brain talks to your adrenal gland and says, he's in trouble. Adrenal gland says, okay, it sends cortisol to your liver, sends adrenaline to your heart. Now your
mm,
liver starts, it opens up the floodgates of sugar,
mm,
right?
mm,
Your
mm.
heart starts pumping more blood.
Mm.
That's why you have the fast, shallow breathing.
Yeah.
Now you have all of this happening inside your body.
Mm,
Your essential cells and organs are are denied essential
mm,
nutrients so that your muscles most of the nutrients so that you can run or you can fight. And so this is what's happening inside our bodies. But what the consequence of that, though, Avik, is that rest and digest
mm,
does not happen because that's not the priority of the mind. This is why we start to feel tension. This is why health issues kick in and
mm.
all kinds of bad things that come along with feeling stressed and overwhelmed and chronically stressed and burnt out. So what can we do? And so when we ask the question, what can we do to help calm down the storm? We have to
Mm.
start by how we process information that comes in from our five senses. That
Yeah.
how do we control the database of our body?
Mm.
How do we
That
give our brains exactly what it needs to give us exactly what we need to be in a state of happiness? And so if
exactly.
we think about it from that perspective, then we
Mm,
start thinking about how to calm the mind, how to calm
mm,
the body, and
mm.
then we can calm the situation. Because
Yeah.
again, you're exposed to stimuli, you're
Mm,
exposed to you're making practical contact with, and observation of things around you. And you're responding. We respond to all of this stuff day in, day out, whether you know it's happening or whether you don't. It's happening, right? And so even when we don't think that we are processing things, we are. Hence what we call the subconscious mind, right? Or the involuntary mind. So even when we're not consciously doing it, we are. And so Abik, it's the critical thing is for us to find ways to control our mind, to calm
Hmm.
the mind, calm the body, and we can calm the situation down.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing, amazing. And so I love like how you are emphasizing that not all stress is created equal, but it really shifts the narrative from avoidance to the awareness, which is definitely a practical and empowering approach. So, I mean, stress is often gets labeled as bad, but you advocate for seeing it as a natural or the neutral force, something which we can channel. So, can you share an example of how you have helped a client? No need to take the name, but how you have helped a client or any individual that shift their relationship with the stress and use it to achieve the success?
Absolutely, absolutely. And so I'll start with how it happens, and I'll give you an example. So when we have all this resource, right? As
Right.
you start to feel tension, your
Mm,
body gets the resources that it needs to fight or to take flight.
mm,
That's I call that God's natural,
mm,
God-given ability to move faster, to act quicker, to be more effective. Because the brain sensing that you're in trouble, and so
yeah.
it's giving you the resources that you need to get out of trouble. And so if we can understand that all we have to do is figure out a way to harness that energy so that it doesn't blow off the lid, because once it
Mm,
blows off the lid, that's when you get all the bad stuff.
mm,
But if you can keep it controlled, if you can harness it, then you can take it and redirect it to a positive goal, to achieving your goal, right?
mm,
And so let me turn my phone down. And so Avik, harnessing stress and
mm,
using it for positive change is what we want to do.
yeah.
You know, I when I this I've spent about half a decade of my life working on as an organizational psychologist, working on finding the best tools, scientifically backed tools to turn stress into strength and stress into success.
Mm,
And as an entrepreneur, like I use this every day. As a coach, I've used this on a lot of people to help them see that you don't achieve success by running away from stress. You have to meet stress with the right tools to harness it for growth. And a while back, a friend of mine, a clinical psychologist, doing all of this work with other people and helping other people, she started to get burnt out. And just, talking as friends, we shared, I shared what works for me. And
mm,
she starts applying in a specific framework, to calm your mind, calm your body, and calm the situation. And
yeah.
applying the same stuff that we're talking about, it works. I mean, she would just have resting headache, just her head. When you carry the weight of other people as a therapist in this case, right? You are living in a constant state of stress unless you know how to not burn out from that. And applying this day in, day out for I think about the stretch of maybe 3 months, the resting headache was gone. She found that her rest and digest function in her body came back. Because I mean, health issues were kicking in. Um, Even personally, I can tell. And oh, by the way, and then she started applying that to her clients, and they're seeing results as well. And I could give you story upon story, but even personally, I went through a time where, as I was expanding in my business, I wasn't paying attention to my body, wasn't paying attention to my mind. I was just fixated on this is what we got to do. This is what we got to do. And I started to get hit with acid reflux, stomach
Mm,
issues. Like your body will tell you when you're veering off the path of of creativity, when you're veering off the path of being stable, for internally stable. And you've got to listen to those cues. You've got to listen to what your body tells you, and have the tools that bring you back to the place of creativity and effective problem solving, so to speak. Because we're always going to be faced with problems. I don't think there's anyone who says, "Oh, I'm just going to walk through life and be successful without challenges." In fact,
mm,
you want challenges, Avik. Like there's no success without trial. There is no triumph without trying, right? So,
right.
so, so you should welcome that. The only
Mm,
time that you would ever have problem with stress is when you don't know how to manage it.
mm. Very true. Yeah. So, okay. So, like, it's incredible, like how much can change just by shifting the way we perceive and react to the stress. That the story really brings home the idea about mindset can transform the outcomes. So, mindfulness and meditation are the topics that come up frequently on this podcast, but I did rather love to hear your take on them. I mean, how do mindfulness practices help with building a focus and emotional resilience in high pressure situations?
Absolutely, absolutely. So what mindfulness does is going back to calming the mind, calming the body, and then calming the
Mhm,
situation, right? If you are, say you're faced with, say you're about to give a speech, you have a presentation, and you can feel your heart
mhm,
pounding, and you can feel you're all jittery, and you're getting kind of sweaty, right? You're in a state, you're getting into a state of fight or flight. If you can calm your mind,
mhm,
you can literally take that energy and say, well, yeah, I feel sweaty. I feel my heart beating fast, but I'm excited about what's going to happen. My body is telling me that there's excitement going on, that I'm going to do well. You can take that fear, what started off as fear or anxiety, and change it to,
mhm,
because here's the thing, your brain doesn't know details of anything. Your brain just knows the impulses and information that it gets from the database of the mind.
mhm,
When you when the brain and again, remember the brain's the king of our ecosystem, and it decides what goes where. It decides how
mhm.
to apportion resources within our bodies, right? And so when your brain's deciding, like, how should I make them feel right now?
Correct.
Should I make them feel happy, mad, sad, angry? What do they need? It's looking at how your mind is processing information that you're getting, but it's also referencing
Yeah.
past experiences, and it's referencing your future expectations.
Mm,
Now, a lot of us have messed up past experiences, right? Riddled with fear and anxiety and whatever it is from the past, right? Failures. So if we're counting on our past experiences to be the reference point for our brain to go tapping into, then we're probably screwed, right? Instead, if we can control, what we can control is our future expectations. Like, what do we expect of the future? And so I think a lot of people stress over things that they can't control instead of focusing on the things that they can control, right? I can't control what you're doing where you're at, but I can control how I think about it. I can control my response to the world. I can't control how fast the world is spinning, but I can
yeah.
control how I spin with it, if that makes sense.
Mm,
If you learn how to respond to those impulses, let me go back really fast to what the brain does with the past and the future, and how we can, and how that could be a starting point for mitigating stressful consequences within our bodies.
Yeah.
If and you talked about mindfulness.
Hmm.
So if, as you're practicing mindfulness, and let me start with gratitude, because
Yeah.
gratitude is such a powerful thing. In
Hmm.
fact, the University of California, San Francisco, there's a
Hmm.
study out of there that showed that positive emotions, such as gratitude, actually generates growth of cells that repair our DNA. As you know, DNA is the blueprints for life, right? And
True.
but on the flip side, negative emotions
Hmm.
destroy the protection that's over our DNAs, called
Hmm.
telomeres. So if
True.
you're living in a state of constant fear and anxiety and depression, and your
Hmm.
brain is always thinking that you're feeling threatened by the
True.
pressures of life and expectations of life, your brain's going
Hmm.
to try to keep you safe all the time, and it's going to keep pushing down
Hmm.
hormones into your body that over
Yeah.
time could wear down your DNA. We
Okay.
know what the consequences of that would be, right? But on the
Hmm.
flip side, things like gratitude,
Hmm.
over time, mindfulness, over time, your meditation help
Yeah.
repair DNA. And I think of meditation as the mechanic workshop for our minds, right? When you're meditating, you just observe. Like, you're just observing.
Hmm.
You're not you're not focused on, this is a negative thought, this is a positive thought. Oh,
Uh-huh.
I need to change this negative thought. No, you're just observing, and you
Hmm.
can see thoughts come and go.
Hmm.
It's like taking your car to a shop, and they lift it up, and they're examining, and they're looking at the car to see, like, is anything wrong. So mindfulness is a state of quieting your mind and quieting everything, so that you can see what state you're in.
Hmm.
And I think this is what makes it so powerful. When you add gratitude
Yeah.
to it, now you're supercharging this whole thing. But there's one more thing that
Okay.
I'd like to suggest to the listeners to try:
Hmm.
visualization.
Ah.
Visualization is how you can control your future expectations.
Hmm.
If you can sit down and you can see what you want, how you want it, you can hear it, you can smell it, you can see it, you can touch it, all
True.
in your mind, in the realm of your mind.
Hmm.
Your brain does not know what's in the past, what's in the present, what's in the future. Your brain just knows this is what you're thinking.
Yeah.
It takes those thoughts, and this is how we can improve the quality of lives that we live. And going back to the study where I said, the studies show the quality of our lives are not based on money, they're based on the richness of our experiences. Well, how do we get those rich experiences? It is by controlling what our minds give to our brains. Like, what is your mind feeding your brain? Is your brain getting from your mind what it needs to give you what you need, right?
Hmm.
And so
Yeah.
mindfulness, gratitude, visualization. I don't
Yeah.
know that you would ever find one successful person who's being honest with themselves and with everyone, who could tell you that they
Hmm.
got to where they got to without seeing it first. You've got to see it if you're ever going to be it, you know?
Exactly, I have to say. I mean, I have to appreciate that how you are making the mindfulness accessible and the practical. I mean, it's really, really great. And it's not about sitting on a kind of mountaintop in silence, but it's all about how creating that small moments of clarity in our busy lives. Like, I mean, it's
Absolutely.
really, yeah, yeah. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and also like if you could give one piece of advice to someone who feels like they are stuck in a cycle of stress, self-doubt, and the burnout. So, uh, what would it be?
Viktor Frankl, let me tell you a story. Viktor Frankl was a Holocaust survivor,
Mm.
back in, man, I think he was born in 1902 or something. He died in 1997. He's a psychiatrist. And he went through the most tumultuous, the most stressful situations in the Nazi camps. And through all his struggles, you know what he extracted from all of his struggles? He extracted the quest for a meaning in life. What In fact, he wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. And
Mm.
he said something. He says, if you when you can no longer change the situation, you are then forced to change yourself. There's nothing you can do about the world that you live in, right? You can't do anything about politics, about
True.
you, there are things that will stress you out day in day out that you have no control over. When
Yeah.
you cannot change the world around you, you
Mm.
change yourself from within.
Exactly.
Um,
That's
Albert
lovely.
Albert Camus said,
Hmm.
"In the heart of winter, I have
Okay.
finally found that within me lies an invincible summer."
Hmm.
When you're faced with a situation, you've got
Okay.
to understand that you're at a fork in the road where you've got to decide where to go. You
Hmm.
can either choose to react to what you're experiencing or
Hmm.
choose to respond.
Hmm.
And another quote says, stimulus, between when
Okay.
you're faced with something,
Hmm.
stimulus, and response, there is a space. And in that space, you have the power to respond. And in your response lies your growth and transformation. So I just want to just encourage people, whoever's
Hmm.
listening to this, wherever you are,
Hmm.
you will get faced with things that you don't that will have no meaning to you.
True.
You will be unsure about your life. You will ask questions like, well, why am I going
Hmm.
through this? What's wrong with what I'm doing? Am I doing this wrong? Am I not meant to be successful at this? You will question yourself. You will question your path. You will
Hmm.
get hit with stress.
Hmm.
You have to understand that you have a choice to respond
Hmm.
or to react. And
Correct.
in that space, you've got to choose wisely what you do, because what you do next
Hmm.
determines how your brain responds to that to your processing of that situation. And so if
Hmm.
we just understand the level of power that we have as human beings, if we understand that within us lies the ability to control our situations and to control our response, I don't think there's ever anything that we face that would be a real issue to be afraid of. I don't, I mean, even
Hmm.
when you fail, you're going to fail and understand, well, there is something in this for me. There's always meaning in life, like
Hmm.
Viktor Frankl. Looking for
Hmm.
meaning in every situation that we face is critical, because when you can do that, then you can find the positive reason why something is happening instead of always looking at the negative. And this is the problem. This is the problem that we have in our society today is our society has programmed us to have a bias. We have a negative bias. We primarily
True.
see things from a negative perspective before we look at the positive, right? And so we have to reprogram our response mechanism so that we can take the situations happening around us, and instead of letting them break us down, we can use them as stepping stones to grow and stepping stones to transform our lives from where we're at now to where we want to be.
Wow. Amazing. Lovely. I really loved it. So, Dr. Jaws, this conversation has been nothing short of enlightening, I have to say. I mean, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your personal experiences, and actionable tools for mastering the stress and building resilience. And I know, like, our listeners will walk away feeling empowered to tackle life's challenges with a whole new mindset. So, to everyone who is listening, if you found value in today's episode, do not keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who could use a reminder that stress doesn't have to be a roadblock. And remember that every moment of growth begins with a single mindset shifts. So, Dr. Jaws, before we go, where our listeners can find you?
My website, drjoshmcwealth.com.
Uh-huh.
I am on TikTok. I am on LinkedIn. I am on Facebook. I'm everywhere. And I think my handle is the same everywhere. It's at Dr. Josh McWealth.
Mhm.
JoshMcWealth at Dr. Josh McWealth.
Perfect. Perfect. That's really lovely. Great. So, as always, dear listeners, stay resilient, stay mindful, and remember that a healthy mind leads to a healthy life. So, this is your host Avik signing off. See you soon. Thank you so much.